coffee with eggs, broken rice, and how to properly enjoy jackfruit. This week, we're in Saigon.
Traveling the world to bring you delicious dishes, tasty beverages, and interesting experiences. This is the Destination Eat Drink Podcast on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
I'm Brent Peterson. Welcome to Destination Eat Drink, the travel podcast for foodies. This is the show where we enjoy dishes and drinks from around the world on DestinationEatDrink.com and here on the Destination Eat Drink podcast. This week, my guest is Dung Ho from Jackfruit Adventures, a foodie tour company that takes guests to off-the-beaten-path attractions and foodie stops around Saigon, Vietnam on bicycle. What a super cool concept Dung has. But before we talk to him, let me ask you to rate and review the podcast. We've been getting lots and lots of repeat visitors here, so if you've been enjoying the show, please give us those 5 stars on your podcast app. Thank you so very, very much. Dung Ho is the founder of Jackfruit Adventures and a native of Saigon, Vietnam. He's a very fascinating guy with tons of info about the food and culture of his city. And yes, I do ask him about whether to call it Saigon or Ho Chi Minh City, and his answer is why I call it Saigon. Dung tells me about why bicycling is the best way to see the city and some of the best dishes to try in Saigon, like the street food in the Cho Lon neighborhood. Dung also talks about the local produce markets and the unique coffee culture in Saigon. Vietnam is, after all, a huge coffee producer. Okay, I'm starving, thirsty too, so let's eat.
Destination Eat Drink.
Dung Ho from Jackfruit Adventures. So great to get to talk to you about Vietnam and Saigon. Welcome to Destination Eat Drink.
Hey, Brent, thank you for inviting me to the show, and it's my pleasure to be here.
First off, I want to make sure that we're using correct terms when we talk about your city, because I see that a lot of people refer to it as Saigon. I also see a lot of folks call it Ho Chi Minh City. So I want to use the correct terminology. What should we call your city?
Yeah, I think it's quite special in our cities. We have 2 different ways to call. So actually, this one is related to the war event. So you know that we have the Vietnam War. Back there is really, I think, a big attention to the world. And before 1975, the city, now the city is only one, is Saigon. And after 1975, the new government they setting up a new name for this city is Ho Chi Minh. So Ho Chi Minh is actually the name of the leader of the North Communist Party. He's like really important guy in the party, and he died before the war end. So the people, the new government just want that the entire country of Vietnam remember about him. And that's why they changed the name of Saigon to Ho Chi Minh. So, you know, at the moment, a lot of locals like me, we all always call it Saigon. But for a lot of new young generation, they get to a new name, is Ho Chi Minh. So actually, you can call it Saigon or Ho Chi Minh. They both understand.
Either one is acceptable. Okay, so maybe we use them interchangeably. What do you use? Do you use both names?
I normally use name of Saigon. It's for me, it's like really lovely and lovely name. Compared to Ho Chi Minh, it's too long for me.
Okay, so I'll use in deference to you, Dung. I'll use Saigon. One thing that you do at Jackfruit Adventures that I think is so cool is that you do your adventures, you do your food tours on bicycle. Why do you choose to use bikes as your means of transportation instead of walking around Saigon?
The first of all, I really love cycling. Before I start Jackfruit Adventure, whenever I have time, I jump on my bicycle and I exploring the city, every small corner, every hidden place on my bicycle, taking picture, chit chat to local, and I feel really happy every time I do that. And then I related to what people offer the moment in the like the tour markets in Saigon. Is normally the the tour with the motorbike, which means the people on the motorbike, and they're going to be a guide and they drive you to all the street and everywhere. But actually, that it's a cool experience. But the thing is, you sit on the back of the bike and you're not really driving. You not really feel the city beat, you know. So as long as our customer they get the feeling on their bicycle and they actually driving, so they can feel how the traffic is. And advantage, you know, in Saigon we have a lot of small alley, and then the guests they can really driving through that alley and they feel the local spirits. So that's why and the food also, yeah, it's a lot of good food is on a small alley. So that's why I want the people, the traveler, you know, hop on the bicycle and you know eat and ride. Also a way to keep you healthy too.
You can work off some of those calories while you're
Yeah, you
biking, huh?
burn calories, you can eat more than that you work it. Yeah, it's the other option.
This is great. Now I can feel good about eating all this excellent food.
Yeah.
Young, on this podcast, a lot I say one of the first things I want to do when I come to a new city, two things actually. The first thing I say is go on the food tour so that you can understand the local culture, the local cuisine. And so when you go to Saigon, go on Jackfruit Adventures. But the other thing I say to do early on is to go to the local market, because I feel like this gives you a real insight into what the actual locals, the people who live there, what they're eating, the things that they're buying, and maybe you can get some, if you make some connections, you can get some tips on how to prepare this. And I think in a place like Saigon, where you've got many different kinds of produce that maybe you wouldn't see on American store shelves, this would be equally important. Tell me about some of the markets that you can visit in Saigon and what makes them special.
Saigon is a really big city with about 10 million people living. So it's always busy. And for us, the fresh market, or people call the wet market, is really a popular way for us to shopping around compared to going to the supermarket. So you can easily to find the wet market like in every district in Saigon. In every urban area, they have kind of some random wet market just pop up in some place on the street, some places. But for me, one of the most interesting place for me to visit the wet market is I always bring my guest. Is located in our apartment in Saigon. We have some complex apartment that built before 1975. That in there, just right on the in front of the complex, the apartment is the market just right there, like just right at your door. Apartment it's serving for local people around the area, and also for people living in the apartment, and that you can feel that how is draw the picture of the wet our culture of like going to the wet market, and in the early morning, you can buy fresh fish or meat and a vegetable. So we don't really keep much food on the fridge because we go to the market every day, every morning. Normally, like my mom or my relative.
This is a great way to live. And when we moved to Portugal a couple of years ago, we really had to kind of adapt our way of thinking to this idea of going to the market on a daily basis or an every other day basis. And it's really different than an American way of thinking of going to the market once a week or every other week and loading up your car with all of this stuff and bringing it home, putting in the pantry, putting in the refrigerator. What is the name of this market that you were just talking about again? What was the name?
So if you have chance to go to the Saigon, I recommend you go to the market they call Ngô Gia Tử. It's quite long for you, like Ngô Gia Tử market.
Okay. And I'm going to have difficulty pronouncing that, so I'll leave it up to you. But one of the things that a lot of folks are doing now is going into Airbnbs instead of hotels. And with the Airbnb, you get a kitchen. So this is another advantage. You go to the market, you can buy your produce. What would you say for someone who's a novice, who hasn't been to Vietnam before? What should they look for in the market as far as fruits and vegetables and other kinds of produce? what would they look for that they could find interesting, that they could try and really get a taste of Vietnamese culture that they could prepare in their own kitchen in their Airbnb?
I think the first thing they can easy to find is the fruit. You know, our country is really popular for the tropical fruit. So in local market, you can easy to spot, like mango steam, or jackfruit. And now the season of durian. I know maybe a lot of people doesn't like durian, but it's the seasoning now, and for us, it's like the king of fruit here. So I think the first time you come to our market is looking for the fruit. It's really easy to see in every local market. We have it. Yeah, and some in terms of cooking, if you going to buy something in our local markets, it's always have the ready meat, ready fresh, like pork or chicken, is beef always ready. So you can easily to combine and buy some, fresh vegetable. It's easy to make your salad. Yeah, so I become I feel this. And you can find everything there in the wet market for your recipe of cooking in terms of Asian or in the West way, also quite easy to find the ingredients for cooking.
Now, you named your company Jackfruit Adventures after the famous fruit in Vietnam. And I've talked about this on the podcast before, that I'm trying to get into jackfruit, but I've had difficulty because it was explained to me that you really want to try it fresh. And I guess I haven't had fresh jackfruit.
Yeah.
Is this the way to really experience jackfruit and enjoy it to its fullest, do you think, Young? Is fresh jackfruit rather than cooked or processed?
Before you already have the dry jackfruit? Did you eat the dry jackfruit before?
I haven't found it fresh. I've had it prepared in cooked in like barbecue sauce and things like this as a kind of as a meat substitute type thing.
Ah, I see. So actually, jackfruit, the fresh, when you eat fresh, you can have the full flavor of that. But I see majority of people, they like jackfruit when it's dry. It's mean like the jackfruit, and then they heat it up until it's dried. I think it's a better version of jackfruit. Yeah, it's really a famous snack. When you travel and you have it's like really healthy and tasty snack, like a little bit sweet, but they also have the flavor of green tea when you eat that. I think it's really good combination for a good snack, and especially when you travel, some country like in Asia, and you're looking for kind of some local snack. I think this can be a good option.
Oh, perfect. All right. I'm telling you, I'm going to jump on the jackfruit bandwagon, and I'm going to figure out a way to really enjoy it. Let's get into some of the neighborhoods of Saigon,
Yeah.
and you can tell me about them and what makes them special. Let's start with the Chinatown area, the Cho Lawn neighborhood, because you do a tour. Yeah, you do a tour here. Tell me about this neighborhood and what makes it a cool place to visit.
The thing is, I think that if you go to Saigon, because Saigon is the pretty fast modernization. It's mean like every 2 or 3 years, the city change very fast. But before I living abroad for like 1 year, and I went back to the city. Sometimes I don't even recognize my city anymore.
Wow.
The central area, like let's say District 1 or District 3, in the central area, or District 2, like District 1 to 3 is it's developing really fast, and new building, all the ways, always new building. But the only place in Saigon that I think that they keep their local history and local the ancient building, local, the local culture is I can find only in Jalan, because when you go there, you can feel the different right way. It's a lot of traditional street where they keep the thing is, in Chinatown, in the Chinese culture, that they reserve the culture really well. Like they let's say there are some specific job, like the medicine. We have a traditional medicine or the fabric. Like the family business. So they do it from different generation. They can do it for like your great father, grandfather, and then from your father, and then you. They keep it for business for 100 years going on. And then when I go to Chinatown, like there are some street, like entire street, they're gonna sell like let's say the traditional medicine, and you can know it right away. You can hear the smell of that, and you can talk to the people, the local staff there. They're happy to share with you a story about how their family business. When they early start in 17th century, when the Chinese start immigrant to Ceylon. Yeah, and a lot of beautiful, like really ancient building, a Chinese temple, and also the Chinese food is in there. It's really, really good. They have the flavor that is traditional and a traditional flavor that you can hardly find anywhere else in Vietnam. Yeah, so that's make me really fascinating every time that I visit Ceylon, and it gives me the feeling of the culture there. A part of Saigon is located like right in Ceylon.
So let's say that, Young, you're riding your bike through Cholon
Yeah,
and you're getting a little bit hungry.
yeah.
What's the place that you're going to search out and say, okay, here's where I'm going to go for lunch?
In Ceylon, so there are a lot of food you can find there. So for me, I always stop to have like a bun, like the bun, like dim sum is really a good dim sum, small snack, small area, small restaurant. They sell street dim sum that really tasty and healthy. That I went there sometimes with friends, sometimes with some foreigner friend, and they say that wow, they haven't really have a good dim sum like that for long. If I go in the Chinatown at night, they have an area like street food, Chinatown center area, on the street area, and you can find lots of noodle and snails. Snail is in Ceylon really good. Vietnamese people, we love the snail.
Just like the Portuguese, the snails are really big here in Portugal too. You have shops that are just in my town, you have shops after shops that are just dedicated to the snails. So there's something the Portuguese and the Vietnamese have in common.
Oh yeah, that's mean like Vietnamese, we love snail. So different type of snail, they grill or they steam. Yeah, and it's really tasty to be just be hanging around the food area, and then you can eat some food. And some of my other pork favorite food there is the bitter melon with the steam pork. They mix together. Is For a lot of people they don't like it because bitter melon is quite a bitter flavor for them. But for me, it's a good way to for unhealthy healthy food, because in Vietnamese we believe that when the food is bitter flavor, it can healing out your body, it cool you down.
So this brings up the topic of street food, and not just in the Cholon neighborhood. I would imagine all over Saigon there's good street food. Are there other kinds of street food that you enjoy? I read about something called com tam, broken rice.
Oh yeah.
Is that a good street food that we should try?
Yes, Khom Tom is broken rice is one of the I think one of the most popular street food in Vietnam that we are having on normally at night time in every corner on the street of Saigon. You can easily to spot the sign say Khom Tom. So Khom Tom actually is the grilled pork, and they cook together the grilled pork and like the fillet of rice. Broken rice. Have you like the term broken rice, because it's actually the normal rice, but then they gonna press it to be small piece. So when you cook, normally the rice gonna be longer, but at broken rice, everything to be small piece. And then when you combine it with the grilled pork, and some people they like some the omelette, like the egg that you fry, that you put together also on the top of the plate, the rice, and a little bit with some pickles. And the most important thing that make the flavor of cơm tấm popular, that is the fish sauce. So you need to make for our Vietnamese, fish sauce is really important flavor when we combine with our food. So for cơm tấm, normally they make the fish sauce, the original fish sauce, and they put a little bit of lemon and some lamb and a little bit of garlic, and they mix everything and you put together on the dish of cơm tấm, and it turns flavor like really, really good.
One of the things that I think of when I think of Vietnamese street food is the dumplings. Is this something that is really popular in Saigon? I would imagine it would have to be, right?
Actually, dumpling is normally popular for Chinese food culture. It's more, you find that more in Ceylon.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think all the popular street food we can name it here, like bánh mì, the bread, have you heard about the Vietnamese bread?
Yeah, so you've got baguettes
Yeah, the baguettes. Yeah.
from the French times. But when I was talking to a lady from Hanoi, what she told me was what the Vietnamese did is they incorporated rice flour with the wheat flour, which gives the baguettes in Vietnam its unique texture and taste, which I think sounds fantastic because I love rice flour bread.
Yes, in Vietnamese, we back there we also adapt from the French making bread style compared with our style. So they make that's why our baguettes have the flavor quite tasty, quite crispy when you baking that. This make really flavor of the bread is one of the plus point in terms of our baguette. Yes.
So we got the bread. We got to fill up the bread with something.
Yeah.
Tell me about the sandwiches that we should get when we're in Saigon.
Actually, the sandwich, the bánh mì, we call it bánh mì, right? In Saigon, you have our local. We have different way to eat. So I give you some of the most popular way. One of the most bread store in Saigon, bánh mì, is the called Hình Hoa bread. So Hình Hoa bread is actually in the bread, and then they put lots of different ham, the ham meat, like the pork, but they make like ham, and then they cut to be a slice really thin together with some pate. Yeah, you know the pate.
Yes.
Pate is one of the most important ingredient when you make on the bánh mì. You put the pate in middle of the bread together with some ham and also some some grilled pork, some plain grilled pork and some pickle. Pickle really important. They make the sour flavor for the bánh mì, and together with some other like coriander together, and it's make a really perfect bite. Some place like Huỳnh Hoa bread, they open since 3 p.m. You can go there 3 p.m. until like midday, until like midnight, 11, 12 p.m. And you have to always waiting online because people are waiting to get the bread there. It's really good. And some other bread is I would recommend you go to the bread they call the 37 on Nguyễn Trãi Street. They call bánh mì 37 on Nguyễn Trãi. That is one of the best bánh mì that I always come when I have time. I always visit that place and having. So what she's selling that she says she make the we call in Vietnam we call it chả. Chả is like the meat pork, but they have a lot of the fat. When you take the pork out, she use a lot of fat, and then you chop it to be small piece, and then she roll it to be like a ball, and then she grill it. And she have some secret recipe. The sauce, her sauce is really special. And this kind of bread, she doesn't put the pata in. Instead, she made her own sauce and some pickle and the meatball and coriander, a little bit of chili sauce. It's really like in Vietnam, people don't really never go for McDonald's because her bread is one of the perfect example of how our baguette is.
Sounds amazing, that bread. I'm just wondering. I'm thinking about all these sandwiches with all the ham, with all the pork in them. Is there any options if we've got vegetarian friends visiting Saigon that they can enjoy maybe a sandwich, but it doesn't have the meat in it?
Yeah, you can. And actually, if we have the version with the egg, if some vegetarian they can eat the egg, so we have the egg, the bread and the egg also popular. The egg and some pickle and coriander. I think this is only one of the best option for vegetarian. But they can eat egg and some other option that we don't really have a kind of the bread specific for the vegetarian because when you put some other ingredient, if only the vegetable or tofu, they don't really make the fully kind of signature flavor of our bread. So I think one of the best option that I think the bread with the egg can be one of the good choice. Otherwise, they just put inside some pickle and soya sauce for you.
Let's switch gears to coffee because Vietnam is one of the biggest coffee producers in the whole world.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what the kind of coffee that we would have when we come to Saigon? Is there a specific flavor? Is there a specific type of coffee? What do you drink? What do you drink every morning?
So the thing is, let me tell you a little bit about coffee in Vietnam. So we are one of the biggest export the coffee in Vietnam. But actually, in coffee, normally they have two kind of bean, the Robusta and Arabica.
Yes.
Back in the US, what the majority people you are having the Arabica bean for the coffee, and Robusta is just more people use more for like to make the flavor, like in chocolate, or they make some cake thing. They have that's what they use the Robusta bean. So majority of our, like 90% of our beans in Vietnam producing is the Robusta. Yeah. So that's the reason in Vietnam our coffee quite strong because on Robusta the caffeine is like 5 times higher compared to the normal Arabica. So if you not really drink a lot of coffee, when you have our cup of coffee, you can feel really strong. Your heart can beat faster. So for me, the way I drink coffee is actually I make my own coffee in every morning. I adapt from America. I bought a kind of a small, we call it the AeroPress, that you can make coffee at home. I haven't been. I've been travel in Vietnam a lot, and at some point I end up in the place in Vietnam we call Khe Sanh. Khe Sanh is like the small town in middle of Vietnam. If you know about Vietnam War, we have a very famous battlefield before. It's related. They call the Khe Sanh battlefield. That where the American before they operate in a really big airport and also an army base there. So it's one of the best play that the French before they, and also I see American, when American coming over and they brought the bean over to Khe Sanh. So it's a lot of local people that they drink the coffee with the American, and they, wow, this drink is really awesome. And then they ask American to give for them the bean, and then they later on they learn how to grow the coffee in the Khe Sanh. So that's what I normally get my bean from. So in the morning I just make an Americano way of coffee. Majority of Vietnamese people that they drink coffee, like we have the term called cà phê sữa đá. Like it's only the coffee they make from we call it the fin like kind of a filter. There's our Vietnam, we have a kind of filter. So we put the coffee in the filter, and then we put the hot water, and then later on through the filter, the metal filter, the coffee they drop down, and then we put some the condensed milk. And then they mix everything together, and they make a really strong flavor of the condensed milk, sweet, and with the strong coffee from the coffee. And in the morning, if you have like a cup of coffee sữa đá, you can be like awake for all day. Yeah.
So that's the Cafe Sudan, but I also heard about something called butter coffee, Young. Is that similar?
Actually, butter coffee actually is not really popular in Vietnam though.
Okay.
Yeah, we have in butter coffee in some small shop. They have like actually they adapt from French, because before when the French they come over to Vietnam and they drink the coffee here, and then they kind of mix the flavor back in France, and then they put kind of a butter on the filter, the French butter there, and then when the coffee they drop down, they have the flavor of the butter. But this kind of coffee is not really popular. At the moment, there are some different type of coffee popular here. They call the egg coffee. The egg coffee. It's a little bit similar to, it's related to like maybe a latte. So actually the egg coffee, that we put the coffee and together with the yolk in the egg.
Yeah.
Then they mix the coffee and the yolk together, and they can, when you drink it, it make they have the feeling of the creamy, even though they don't put no cream in it, but the yolk from the egg together with the coffee, and when you drink it, you feel like a creamy feeling. Remind you a bit about a cup of latte. And so that is also one of our popular coffee. When the people come over to Vietnam, when they're looking for kind of some special coffee, so I think egg coffee will be on the top of the list of coffee they should try.
So be prepared if you're coming to Vietnam, because you're going to be drinking coffee, and it's going to be Robusto. So you're going to get wired, Americans. You got to prepare yourself for this. But it'll help you go all day long and enjoy Saigon. Now, Dung, you proudly take your visitors off the beaten path of Saigon. But I wanted to finish up by, and you've beautifully described some of these off the beaten path places. But before I let you go, I did want to ask you, what are some of the big attractions, some on the beaten path locations that folks should definitely see when they come to Saigon? Because if Americans are coming to Saigon, they're going to come there for a while. They're not going to come for a weekend. So they're going to have some time. What are the big blockbuster attractions not to miss?
The first thing I would recommend that is the area is the Independence Palace. It's where it's like the White House back in the U.S. in Washington D.C. So we have the White Palace just before. The White Palace is the where our South government working in the government, and he also living and working there. After the war, this place is used for the tourist attraction. So every day it's like a huge amount, 1,000 of tourists come to the Independence Palace to visit and to see how our South president living before. And after that is one of the most famous place also we call is the Benton Market. So Benton Market is the name of one of the most famous tourist market. That in there you can have street food also inside the market too, and you can buy also a lot of souvenir and a T-shirt, everything. But make sure in mind that it's a tourist market, so everything they gonna mark up like maybe at least 50%. So be aware that when you buy something, if you know a bargain skill, you don't hesitate to say them, like 70% off before you buy anything there. It's really expensive.
So negotiate the price.
Yeah, negotiate the price. I know Americans don't really have that culture, but I mean in general in the Western American, they don't really bargain. But when you go to Asian market, you just feel like Asian,
Yeah.
Say okay, out you go. Or you say, okay, I not buy, I go, and then they're gonna chase over you, and they're gonna say, okay, I sell for you. Always like that. So I think your place, if you have, don't want to see a little bit the famous attraction. I think White Palace and Benton Market, and it took you like about 2 to 3 hours total to understand a little bit about the Saigon and all the places that you have time. You can also go to like Opera House. And also like the post office. These are all the place that also the big building and history ancient building that people can take a picture that it's got a Saigon, people think that building, that Opera House, they know, okay, you are in Saigon.
These are all great recommendations. Well, Dung Ho from Jackfruit Adventures, thank you so much for being on Destination Eat Drink. Thank you for sharing your city of Saigon with us. It makes me all the much more anxious to come to Vietnam and to come to Saigon and participate in the food culture. And we will have, if folks want to get in touch with you, we'll have links in the show notes, or just go to jackfruitadventures.com and you can connect with Dung that way. Thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been just a joy to talk to you.
Yeah, me too, Brent. Thank you so much for having me on the show, and I'm looking forward for the future, the future podcast with you.
Very good. Okay, there you go. Dung is such a great guy. I would love to hang with him for an afternoon of just drinking coffee and eating banh mi sandwiches. If you're planning a trip to Vietnam, well, first off, jealous. And second, look up Dung at jackfruitadventures.com. I've also got a link to the site in the show notes at radiomisfits.com/DED241. Well, that's it for this week. Next week, we're in Party Central, New Orleans. Until then, there's tons going on at destinationeatdrink.com. I just posted a new video. It's about my pastry crawl through the town of Almada. It's just a quick ferry ride from Lisbon, and I show you why it's worth taking the time to get on that boat and check out Almada. They've got some great pastelerias there. Get that at destinationeatdrink.com and click on the video button, or go to YouTube at Destination Eat Drink 946. I also just posted a story about a pastry that's named after a part of the human body. You can get that at destinationeatdrink.com/blog. And while you're there, you can sign up for the Destination Eat Drink monthly newsletter to keep on top of all the podcasts and the stories and the videos. And you can also contribute to the Destination Eat Drink cause by throwing us a couple bucks. Do that by clicking on the contribute button at destinationeatdrink.com. Destination Eat Drink is distributed by the Radio Misfits Podcast Network and a guy who's trying to popularize his own Chicago version of egg coffee with scotch, except there's no egg and there's no coffee. That's Ed Silla. Thanks, Ed. I'm Brent Peterson. I'll see you down the road.
Join us next week for another culinary adventure on Destination Eat Drink, a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.